What's up, everyone? Beast Mode back here with another video. So I may be posting this video early just because I'm not sure if I'll be able to record on Wednesday or not. And Deck Devastators just finished yesterday on Sunday, so I figure I'd drop the content while it's still hot. But this is the deck I ran at the Deck Devastators 3 tournament, which just concluded on Sunday. It was a Swiss tournament, 140 players thereabouts. It was 8 rounds of Swiss and then a cut to top 12. And then the 4 highest seeded players were the ones who got a bye. So then, so they were essentially guaranteed an invite. It was invites to top 8. So I made the top 12 cut. I ended up losing to Carpath once we made the top 12 cut. I want to address the whole Carpath game because I know people are messaging and posting about it. There was he ended up normal summoning against me 2 times in one turn. We both missed it. It was kind of chaos of how we were kind of resolving it. You know, people were telling us to do this, do that. I ended up actually drawing it out initially to the Christia, which was a Wing Blast. And then, because we had to rewind the game, I ended up having to, put the cards back on top of the deck and shuffle. It was kind of a mess. It's not his fault. It happens. We've all done it. I was disappointed, but nothing. I have the utmost respect for Carpath. No hard feelings. It happens to all of us. I know he's really upset about it. He's apologizing. I'm good. I think he's good. I look forward to playing him again at another tournament. Definitely great matches every time we play. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there and maybe just we can all just move on. It's good. He won the tournament fair and square. He's a great player. And like I said, he's a great player. He's a great deck builder. He made some crazy stuff. And, I beat him in Swiss rounds and he beat me in top 8 or top 12 rather. So, we definitely, threw blows back and forth. So, congrats to Carpath, and I also appreciate the shout out from. So I'm gonna figure out how to link his channel here. But if you don't already watch his videos, which you should be, he creates crazy decks, and he just can play out of his mind. So anyway, I'm gonna get into the deck here. I know some people asked. It's pretty much the same zombie build that I've been playing for quite a while. Every tournament I always make, or my buddy and I make some changes to the deck, and 1 or 2 cards just to maybe make a meta call essentially. So we added the Dust Tornado for this run. I don't know. I believe I had it in my worlds list as well, just because of the meta game I felt was going to be a lot of Blackwing. Also, we ran Book of Moon in this build as well. Just one. It's decent against Blackwing, stops the Whirlwind, but not very good against Icarus attack because they can just still sack for it anyway. So we decided to run this here. The side deck has always changed. Ran, double Cyber, double DD Crow. You have to play that. Definitely got to play Cyber Dragons now because in this event they were 2 Machina decks that ended up topping. So these are just when you think you can take them out, you got to leave them in there. The Vortex and the Smashing Ground were amazing. I actually Vortex Carpath for +1. It's really the only out to Christia except for Book of Moon because he was main decking Royal Decree. So once it hits the board, you're good luck. Smashing Ground is a must at this point, or Soul Taker. Soul Taker might be the metagame now because of the call, because there's a lot of fairy decks running around and it's good against that as well as the frogs. So if you didn't watch my metagame prediction video, I was pretty spot on with frogs and fairies being popular. Fairies ended up winning, not the build that I thought, but Chaos Fairies ended up winning the whole event. So, and frogs, I think, got 3rd place. They were just everywhere. There was frogs everywhere. The only deck I missed on was the Hero Beat deck, which I figured would be about the 4th popular deck. And I don't think any of them actually made the top 12. And I was the only zombie player in the top 12. So, like I said, zombies are kind of having a tough time right now. They're kind of falling out. Looks like now we have Machina that's kind of relevant all of a sudden. Everybody's been playing this. It came up. There was 2 or 3 of them in the top 12 cut. So just another deck to be aware of. And those decks are playing the Hamster Rykos, which I keep finding to be a difficult problem, or they are a problem to deal with. Specifically for this build, just because of the recruiters. And you're always playing the whole guessing game. Is it a Ryko or is it a Hamster? But anyway, double D Prison's a must. I feel like it just stops too many decks. It was actually pretty good against Carpath when he didn't have Decree because at least it stops the Shining Angels and the recruiters and all that. Double Dust, I just think you can't leave home without him. You just have to have him. Just for, could any rogue decks, burn decks. They're good against Glads, good against Blackwings. I side deck them in a lot. Light Imprisoning Mirror was actually pretty necessary this event because I wasn't going to get burned like I did at Worlds. I played one Lightsworn and I played one Christia Sworn, which was like the first time it was put on the map, and I did not have any light mirrors or skill drains at that tournament. So this time around, I was very much prepared. The problem was against Carpath, I saw Royal Decree game one, so I did not put these in ever because useless. You can't, once he's going to sit on Royal Decree and then you're just sitting on a face up, light mirror. So you may be able to steal a negation here or there with this, like in response to something if he doesn't have the Decree, but I would just rather have a Deep Prison than the light mirror, because at least Deep Prison, you just use it as early as you could. And that's kind of what I was doing because I knew he was on Royal Decree. Then I would just, probably not efficiently use the cards like I normally would, like a Mirror Force or something. But the reality is if you don't use it, then you just can't use it, right? Because this deck has a lot of draw power in it. And all you have to see is one Royal Decree. And so I was just kind of using the traps as I drew them just so I wouldn't get stuck with them. And as you can see in the sideboard here, there's no real way of side decking out of traps. Like I have 2 spells I can put in, and I was cutting like, some Call of the Haunted and like Dust Shoot I would take out if I was going second, just because it's like he sets up he puts Royal Decree down, then you draw Dust Shoot. It's just like the worst anyway. So, and then put in maybe a couple spells. But the problem is there's just not enough spells in the deck. And then if you put in too many monsters, like I did put in some Cyber Dragons, just was taking out Illblood, which I'll talk about. This card was awful this weekend. It was just awful. I don't think I'd play it again. I'm really on the fence about it. It works great when it was working. I had other tournament runs where it was just amazing. And this tournament, it was in my hand. If I review these videos, the games, 50% of the time this card was in my hand. It was awful opening hand. So like some games I go to game 3 and I'm like, I just cannot afford to brick on this card. And it was like that week. It was just one of those days where you just saw it all the time. So I would put in some Cyber Dragon over that. So Light Mirrors actually didn't go in against Carpath's Fairy deck because of the Decree. So he actually made it quite a deck where it's even difficult to side deck against because it just stops the Light Mirrors too. So I did side them in. I played one Christia Sworn deck and I put 2 Light Mirrors and 2 Skill Drain in. I never saw them. Still able to beat the deck though. So Skill Drain were really supposed to go in against Frogs because it's just the worst matchup ever. You can't. You lose game 1 almost every single time against the deck. It just doesn't happen. And then you have to hope to draw a Skill Drain. The Frog deck is just brutal. It's not even. It's so linear too. It's just not very thrilling to play against, and I despise it. I was lucky enough to dodge a lot of the Frog decks this weekend, which is probably the reason why I did so well. Because if you play one of them, it's just you might as well pack it in with the zombie deck. It's just so hard. And the one Starlight Road went in against Glads. I put it in against, and I also put it in against like the Blackwing decks. Good players will definitely play around it with the Icarus attacks and stuff. So it's not that easy to get off. But so this was a side deck, which is always the most important part of the deck for the tournament. We also made a slight change to the extra deck. We took out the Red Dragon Archfiend. I just wasn't making it enough. It was more or less like a security blanket, thinking that I could run over like Colossals with it. Just doesn't happen enough. And we put in an Armory Arm, and the main reason why we put in the Armory Arm is because we were expecting there to be a lot more Raikos, and Mind Control would then be more ideal because you're going to Mind Control. You'd be more likely to just Mind Control Raikos and then flip them and then be able to tuner them away with the Divas. So that's one of the reasons why we decided to go with the Armory Arm this tournament. And actually, I did bring it out once this event. I don't remember who I brought it out against, but I did bring it out once. So I don't think it was like spectacular, but it was an option. So that's the side deck, and the main deck. Like I said, the only card we cut from here was Necrogardener in terms of the monsters. Necrogardener we just found to be. I know I talked highly of it in other videos, but I think I more or less remember the times that it saved me, and it was great with like Burial. I think the card can be good on days where it's put in the graveyard, strategically with like a Zombie Master, or you pitch it for a Tragodia or something. But sometimes you hard draw that and like an Illblood, and it's brutal. And the way this weekend was going with Illblood, I wouldn't be surprised if I was drawing Necrogardener all day. So I'm kind of happy it wasn't in the deck. It does make Wing Blast slightly worse because now you only have 3 discards. You have the Mizuki and the Plague Spreader and only the Illblood, so you kind of miss the Necrogardener. But And also Foolish is the same way, because sometimes you find yourself like, I don't just play Foolish right away. I hold it because sometimes you may draw a card, like let's say you draw a Plague Spreader, then you decide that you're going to, send Mizuki. Sometimes you just want to have an option, like maybe you need Mizuki in your hand or something, so you just don't want to always just slam the card down. And then if it becomes dead, you can often pitch it with Brio. But sometimes having that fourth target was nice with it. But the other card, like I said, I would probably cut would be Necro Gardener at this point. Oh, sorry, Illblood. Necro Gardener we've already cut. I don't know. This weekend was just brutal with this card. I honestly can't believe I did as well as I did. So just a rundown of the matches real quick. I'd like to get through some of the games. The problem is I still have like RBET4 to go through, and it's just hard to get through matches and post because I post 2 videos a week, and it's just, that's 2 rounds of a tournament essentially. So I'll see if I can, maybe pick some good matches, and especially the one that I misplayed in. Definitely think that would be one to review. That was the last round of Swiss. So round 1 I played J-Zap, which is he plays Gladiator Beast. He's a really good Gladiator Beast player. I ended up losing 2-0 to that. Gladiator Beast just feasts on this deck too. It's like not as bad as Frogs, to be honest with you. At least you can play, but it's tough because they just attack the recruiters constantly, and you can never search. Essentially, they attack a recruiter. You can't pull a Pyramid Turtle because they'll just Murmillo it. And then the big problem is the Red Tiara, because the Book of Life makes Book of Life and Call Dead, and it really just stops the zombie engine. So, and you know how it is playing Glads. It can just be over in a couple turns because of the way the deck works, or they draw really bad and you can win. So I just didn't have a shot this weekend against the Glad player. He beat me 2-0. Which kind of really is rough in Swiss tournaments, because now like your tiebreakers are not going to be that great. Luckily, he did well throughout the whole tournament. I think he actually finished 6-2. So that worked out. But then a lot of the opponents that you're playing are like dropping pretty quickly, rounds 2, 3, and 4. Round 2, I played against Hero Beat. I think I 2-0'd the deck. I wasn't overly hard. Round 3 was actually very difficult. I played Macro Monarchs. A viewer here was really good player. He was playing well. Actually had like Ultimate Offering in the deck. I think he like game 1 Ultimate Offering and like filled the board with gadgets and pretty much killed me. And then he like side decks into Macrocosmos and like Banishers. Yeah, like I barely snuck a win out game 2. Cyber Dragon was pretty good, and it was just an uphill battle the whole time with the Macrocosmos and stuff. The problem is when you side deck in like all the Macrocosmos and the Banishers, the deck loses a little bit of consistency doing that. But really good deck. He sent me the deck list because I was interested in it, and I think I'm gonna play it on stream one of these days. And not like the whole time, but I'll play a few games with it just to test it out and see, because it's kind of like old school. Because I know a lot of people remember Macro Gadgets. It was a deck back in the day. So that was my round 3 opponent. Round 4, I played Christia Sworn. We went to game 3 and I ended up squeaking that one out, and nothing really eventful happened there. Round 5, I played Blackwings. Blackwings, from what I remember, I believe I 2-0'd the opponent. He was kind of just playing like extremely aggressive Blackwing, like drop a guy, slam Bora. And you're going to get punished if you play like that against me, because I'm going to have like 6 cards and you're going to have 2 and you're not going to win. So I won pretty quickly. That was round 5. So round 6, I actually played, unfortunately, I believe he was playing like Well Zombie, to be honest with you. He drew terrible game 1, and I like ripped 2 cards out of his Hammer Spirit Reaper, and it was over pretty quickly. And game 2, I unfortunately ended up beating him 2-0, and I didn't get to see a lot of the deck really work because he just drew so poorly. I kind of felt bad. That's just how it is sometimes. Anybody can lose like that. So it was probably a cool deck. I just didn't really get to see it in action. And he actually ended up going 6-2 with it. So, excuse me. So that was round 6. Round 7, I actually had to play Carpath, which he ended up winning the whole event. And his match is actually, our match is on his channel. He just posted it today. So, you can watch that game there. Went back and forth, went to game 3. It was actually a really good match. That was exciting. It's always great playing, great players, and then you really can usually have a good interactive game. So I ended up sneaking a win there, and that was round 7. Round 8 is where I really misplayed. I played Blackwings. He's a hybrid Blackwing. He's a good Blackwing player. I think he's topped other events. And game 1, I actually had clear game, and I missed it with I was supposed to like Foolish Burial, a Plague Spreader Zombie, and stack for it, and then tribute for Caius, and then return everything, and I just missed the kill line. And I ended up losing game 1. I won game 2, and then game 3, he turned 1, dust shoot me, and then played around my whole hand. So unfortunately, I punted the guaranteed invite. I would have been 7-1, so I would have actually lost round 1 and then 1 out. But I punted the game 1 with a misplay, which happens. It's unfortunate, but like I said, even the best misplay, and I'm just transparent enough to show you that I do. So that one I'll definitely review, that game, because it was pretty wild. And he was a great player. Like, I'm not, but it was a clear game. It's not like there was without a doubt would have been game if I just played the line correctly. So I ended up making the top 12 con. I think I got 10th after Swiss, and then ended up having to play Carpath again. And we actually had a pretty interactive set again. We ended up going to game 3. And he ended up like Christia looping me, and I just didn't have enough outs to it this time around. I will tell you, for the next event, you cannot go into there without an option of killing fairies and Christia, because it's going to be brutal. It's going to be even worse now that the fairy deck won. There's going to be more fairies. There's going to be more frogs. Like I said, the deck wasn't positioned too well for this tournament. I kind of called that. I don't think Silchus played, but he might have had a good shot at topping too. But like I said, the deck is very unforgiving. You cannot misplay with this deck when you're playing in better players. Like, once you start reaching the later rounds in tournament, you will be punished for it. And it's a difficult deck to play properly every round, 8 rounds. It's not easy. Even if you play it every single day like I do, it's just, there's different lines all the time. There's different situations. It's just not an easy deck to play. And it's rewarding because it's very explosive at times, and you can really just, take control of a game, but it's hard to think of every single play, and especially when you're starting to play against decks like, fairies more often that have heralds that out a lot of the cards, like Brio and Caius, and main decking rule of decree, so you really can't even stop the Christia. Maybe Book of Moon is going to be more of a staple. And then also on top of it, you have the Machina deck with the hamsters and the Rykos, and that deck is explosive too. Because I like to play a little bit, like as most of you know, I play very controlling. I like to use the Caius and sit back, but the Machina Fortress doesn't allow you to do that. You can't target it. So that can be tricky at times. I hadn't played one this weekend, but I can just imagine the matchup is not going to be that easy. So in Frogs, forget, it's not even like playable. The deck is, I know I despise the deck. I've said it before. I just don't like the way it's uninteractive, in my opinion. And if you like playing it, that's cool. That's I'm not gonna fault you for it. That's your call. It's not something I enjoy playing or playing against. Really, it comes down to how well they draw. If they kind of brick, then you might have a chance. But you have to go to sideboard to be able to beat that deck with the zombies, and because even if you can OTK, so you can out the dupe block with Brio, you can't OTK them because they drop Battle Fader. So even when you are able to set up a board and do something, they have an out, and then they just break your whole board with one Monarch. So it's just, you're doing all this work to try to kill them, and then they just like, oh, summon Ryza, and you have no cards left, and they wiped your board with one card. So So I would say going forward, if we're playing zombies, or if you guys are playing zombies, you got to be prepared for the fairies now, because that's the hottest deck that just won, and nobody's playing the deck like him, like Carpath. He made the deck. It's not a traditional fairy deck, but people are gonna still play it. So, and the lane Imprisoning Mirrors are not really going to work that well because they have Royal Decree. So we need to have an answer for them. And so that's number one. Number two, the Machina deck is going to be even more popular. Out of the 3 decks, that's probably the least of a problem, to be honest with you. You can outplay that deck. The Rykos and Hamsters are not that much of a issue that you just can't win. And the Frog deck is, I still have not been able to solve the matchup yet. If people have an answer, please let me know. But the way I've solved the matchup is I've just somehow or another been lucky enough to avoid it in tournament play. And that's probably why I've been so successful, because that deck is just brutal. So anyway, this is the deck here. I plan on, I may be able to post another video on Wednesday, depending on time. But I don't know when the next stream will be. Maybe Friday, maybe next week. We'll see how things are going. But that was a pretty big success, the stream. So I'd hope, I'll definitely let you guys know and put a shout out beforehand. I think we had like 25 people watching, so that was kind of cool. It was interactive. Just chilled and played Yu-Gi-Oh and kind of talked Deck Devastators before the tournament. So if anybody has any comments or questions, please comment below. Please, like, subscribe, do all that, and I'll see you all in the next one.